Good morning. Today I'm going to talk about my family versus Mike's family. When I say there was no comparison between my family and Mike's family in my eyes, I meant my family were elite. His family was not. It was actually the other way around, but I'll get to that in a minute. So Mike and I get together in 2001. My mom passes away 3 months after him and I start dating. So I have met his mom and dad at this point. Like, I've met him a few times. I liked them. I loved them. I never really had an issue with Mike's dad. My issue was always with his mom. But I feel like the issue was always because I didn't have a mom and I didn't want anything that resembled one around me. None. I did not want a mom. I never kept my kid from his family. However, I never willingly ran around them. I didn't. Maybe a little bit in the beginning, but very soon after we got together, very soon after Braid was born, I kind of clammed up. I was like, I don't want anybody around. And like I said, I never really had a bad relationship with his dad till later on. We get there. But I did have a bad relationship with his mom. And I'll get to that too. So let me say things that drove me crazy about his mom. After my mom passed away, she became very friendly with my dad. And I only mean that as she included him, like, hey, let's invite your dad for supper. Hey, let's do this. Hey, let's do that. And when I tell you that I went into a level of defense over the biggest piece of shit I'd ever met. I didn't know that at the time. He was my dad. And I had him on a fucking pedestal. But because I would have rather her been really mean to him, but because she was so nice and accepting and trying to include him, it made me hate her even more. I can't believe I'm going to say this. In my eyes, he was better than her. It made me want to vomit. Because when I tell you right now that she is angelic and he is the fucking devil, I can't say that loud enough. But that's how I felt back then. And it just made me resent her even more, that she was nice to him and that she was nice to me. And I feel like, and I'm going to say this again later on, but I'm going to say this right now. She has made a comment to me in the recent years that I was not ready to be loved. And she doesn't know probably how spot on that statement really was. Like, I had never really been loved, not normal love. And she tried to drowned me in it. And it did the exact opposite as what I intend that she meant from it. She just wanted me to feel loved. And I didn't know that type of love. So I just felt like it was overbearing and that she was trying to control me, or I don't know. I don't really know what I felt. Hatred, meanness. So eventually Deb and I kind of part ways. Like, she gives me exactly what I needed, but also she lost out on a lot. Because she did just eventually say, okay, I'm out. Like, and I'm not saying that she didn't have a relationship with her son and that she didn't still have a relationship with Braid, but her and I did not have a relationship for several years. Like, she went her way, I went mine. If we met up at like my sister-in-law's for a holiday, great, but that was really the only time I would see her, and I made zero effort to see her. It's very sad. Now, before I get to the good part of me and Deb's relationship, and also some rocky on the father-in-law and the sister-in-law, but I'm gonna talk about how fan-fucking-tastic my family was. Let's talk about that. Phenomenal, man. They were just fantastic. Hey guys, knock it off, please. Thank you. My mom had several siblings. And I was not necessarily close to all of my aunts and uncles, but I was very close to my mom's sister. Her name is Delilah. And to my knowledge, she's still alive today. I don't know that. I haven't spoken to her in a few years. When I tell you it was not only my mom that was controlling, narcissistic, constantly wanted to make me feel unworthy. Okay. So my entire life, Delilah is a very large part of it. She was an escape when my mom was mean, or she would come and get me on the weekends and we would redo her home. She moved down here. She lived up north or in Virginia. Like, she lived a few different places, but she moved back locally, and her and I were very, very close. We had always been very close, and she has 2 sons, and she did not have any daughters. And I always felt like I loved her like a second mom, and I always felt like she loved me like a daughter that she didn't never have. That was always the relationship that her and I had. And then after my mom had passed away, her and I became extremely close, way closer than I'd ever thought possible. She took the place of my mom. And I don't know if it was because I had always known her, so the narcissisticness from her felt like love. There's some lessons in this. It was a love it was a feeling that I felt comfortable feeling. Now, my mom dies in 2001, and my son is born in 2003. And over the next 20 years, 18 years, she is a very large part of my life, very large. She would call me weekly and we would just talk, and she would bitch about her kids and I'd bitch about, whatever. And she was a huge part. She also didn't like my mother-in-law, so it was just a mess. But let's see. Delilah would get really mad at people for using me. Like, horrifically pissed. Like, she'd be like, I can't believe they would treat you like that. I can't believe you would allow them to treat you like that. Like, you don't owe them nothing. Like, stop it. Just stop letting people use you. And in the very next breath, she would be like, I need you to go to the doctor with me, and not a doctor for a medical reason, a doctor for diet pills. I need you to go to the doctor with me on such and such date. And I would be like, Delilah, I can't. I have pictures scheduled that day. And she would be like, oh yeah, you're going to cancel them. And I would. I would cancel them. Or move them. I never really canceled. I never gave up money. But I would move them around because she told me to. Narcissistic abuse is a thing. And I was a huge victim of it for a very long time. Actually, my husband in the beginning was probably a little narcissistic also. However, I will say in this video that I am a light narcissist, and we are put on this earth to deal with narcissists because we mirror their actions. And they sometimes get to see sides of their self that they're not used to seeing. Now, back to Delilah. Her and I were very, very close. I don't think I can make that as clear as it really was. So let's go in. Her daughter-in-law was my babysitter, and I would drive an hour away to take him to the babysitter rather than let my mother-in-law keep him. True story. It's amazing when those clouds part and you see clear skies. Like, it's absolutely fucking amazing. So let's skip forward, I don't know, a few years ago. I honestly can't remember. But Delilah got really sick with COVID, after COVID. She got really sick with COVID. She was put in a place in the hospital, and she called me and was like, hey, I really would like you to come stay with me tonight. I'm coming home and I don't feel good. And I said, okay, no questions asked. Got in the car, drove up, spent the night with her. She was really sick, really sick. And that night I realized that if she did not have somebody that was there with her willing to take care of her, that she probably wasn't going to make it. So the next day, she called her kids in and she was like, I'm going to go stay with Des. And they did not like it. But they agreed that she could come stay with me at my home. And we moved her entire bed, her nightstand that had all of her stuff in it that she was used to having with her. We just moved her entire room to my home. So she had her own bed, her own nightstand. She was just inside of my home, and I could take care of her. And she was here for a couple of weeks. And during that time, I was accused of stealing money from her. And she told me that out of her own mouth. I wouldn't have known. She said that her granddaughter was watching her money and wanted to know why she was giving me money. And instead of telling them the truth, which was for diet pills, that she was sending me to the doctor to get, she just let them believe that I was stealing from her. Because she didn't want them to know that she was a druggie. And I was okay with that. That was the second time I got caught a druggie because of her. her and I were both at a diet doctor, and I'm not saying that I hadn't taken diet pills, because I have taken them before, but I never took them regularly, because she would always be like, I need those. Like, I need them. You don't really need them. I need them. And she would have a prescription for them, so it's not like she didn't have them, but she always needed more. And I don't know if she was taking them. I don't know what she was doing with them, but she would take them from me. And a year or so after she had went home, so she gets healthy, she moves back to her home, and her kids really don't like me. Instead of thanking me for helping their mother, they resented me for helping their mother. And now a year later comes, and I get a horrific phone call from one of my cousins that the other cousin had passed away. And again, I drop everything that I have and I run to her. And during this day, we are inside of her home, and she is sitting with her other son in a horrible space. Horrible space. And her granddaughter and I are having a conversation in the hallway. Quietly, she was telling me just some things that was going on in her life. She seemed to be happy, and the day was not a happy day, but she was having some happy times in her life, and she was wanting to share those with me. And I was willing to listen. And her other sister, which has already been married, and I took the pictures to her wedding that were obviously shit, and I was told that day. So this other cousin, and I'm not going to use names, this other cousin comes in to the hallway where me and her sister are having a conversation. And she said, I have a bone to pick with you. And I said, oh yeah? What about? Now, mind you, I've not seen this kid in years. We don't see each other, nor do we talk. She said, you did a really shitty job on my wedding pictures. And I just wanted to let you know that. And I said, and today was the day that you thought to say that to me? Like today? The day that your uncle has died? You think is a good time to bring this up? She said, yeah, I just wanted to let you know that you did a really shitty job and I don't appreciate it. And I said, little girl, did anyone ever tell you that you should shut the fuck up when somebody does something free for you? Because there was no payment. And she said, oh, you begged me to do my pictures. You begged me to do my pictures. And I said, at this point, I knew this was not going to get down. This was just escalating through the fucking roof. And I said, okay. So I walk away from her. I peek my head into the living room and I say, hey guys, I'm going to head out. That's all I said. And her dad said, why? What's wrong? And I said, well, your daughter thought today was a good day. And I'm not saying I was this calm about it. Your daughter thought today was a good day to tell me what a shitty photographer I am. And she comes in the room and she was like, that's not what I said. That is not what I said. And I said, little girl, I'm going to knock the fuck out of you if you don't shut the fuck up. And her dad got up off the couch and he came at me like he was going to hurt me. And I ran out of the house. And he said, don't you ever fucking come back here again. I said, okay. Now, his mother and me have been inseparable for 30 years. 30 years. 30 years. And she doesn't say anything. She just lets him throw me out. And I leave and go home. And I try to reach out to her. And she would not. She has never spoken to me. Not one time. And to tell you that I do not know what happened that day, I don't know what happened. Like, I wasn't doing anything wrong. And maybe I should have just allowed myself to be attacked and not retaliated, but I'm only human. So that was the day that I lost someone that I love dearly. But I also learned in that moment that she never loved me. She was only ever using me. Because if you love someone, you can't let them go that quick. I'm just saying. So Delilah is a person that I chose over Deb. 10-1 all the time. And then bam, one day, she's gone. Gone. Now, in the meantime, Deb has came back into my life, and we have started building, for the first time ever, a relationship. And when I tell you that my father-in-law and my sister-in-law were always held on a pedestal, and my mother-in-law was always on the ground, I'm not kidding. And then one day, it is so crazy how quick things can happen and how your life just turns the fuck around. Turns around. So it's like early May, late April, 2021. And it's my son's first and only prom that he's ever had, because 2020 was COVID and we didn't have a prom. So 2021. Now, I'm just going to go back a little story here. My father-in-law had a 67 Chevelle. It was light blue. And it was the car that my husband took me on our first date in. And my father-in-law promised that car to my son if he never did drugs, if he was a good student, just all of these rules that most kids don't surpass. But Braid did. Every one of them. So it's his senior prom, and Braid says, I want to take the car. And I say, because I'm a literal person, and if you promise me something and I do my end of the deal, you better fucking hold up your end of the deal, or it's not going to be good, period. And I felt like this was one of those situations. So he wanted to take the car, and I said, absolutely, you can take the car, no questions asked. But that's not what his papa said. His papa said he couldn't take the car. And his aunt made it a huge deal. So huge that they drove from Cincinnati to catch him in the car and cause a huge scene in front of a friend of mine's house, with Braid's besties around and his date. And when I tell you that I got shot a look from my father-in-law that I don't give a fuck if I ever see again. All because I said, we're not going to fight over a fucking car. And he shot me a look. And my sister-in-law said, you think it's okay that he lied? And I said, what exactly did he lie about? Well, he was told not to use this car. I said, oh, the car. We're going to fight over the car. And I will say from late April, early May 2020, for 2 solid years, there was not a word spoken between Mike's father and Michael or myself. Now, we still had a relationship with Deb. We still do not have a relationship with his sister. That is one time that her true colors came through. She's not good people. She's selfish. And if it doesn't benefit her, she will find a way to ruin it. So, in the current state, I have a small relationship with my brother on my side, and I have a cousin that I do speak to on occasion. But that is the extent of my bloodline. Like, I am here to say, family is blood. And yes, you share the same bloodline. But to me, family is supposed to show up and love you and be supportive of you. And my family, personal, my blood family, has never done that for me, ever. Not really. Like, in a sense, but at the end of the day, the minute that I don't agree with them, I'm gone completely. They shut me out. Gone. And that's fine, because I've healed. And as far as I'm concerned, Delilah has passed away. Because at this point in my life, I'm not going backwards. And if she was to contact me, I would simply say, I've already mourned this. See you later. Same with Jeff. I've mourned this. Now, as far as Jeff goes, I will not ever lay my eyes on him again, acceptingly, and unless he gets right with the Lord and I see him in an afterlife. But I don't care to ever come face to face with him, and honestly, I feel the same about her. As for my sister-in-law, she's another one. I don't give a fuck if I ever lay my eyes on her again either. See you later. Currently, my mother-in-law is one of my very best friends. And I think, well, I'm going to say that she went through some traumatic, she realized some traumatic things that had happened in her past. And I feel like that's her story to tell, not mine. But having been around while she was going through that time in her life was a huge eye-opener for me when it came to my feeling of her. And that was, I always felt like she was whiny. And then all of a sudden, all the puzzles fell into place. And I realized that she too had a really shitty childhood. And I will say this with every confident bone in my body, and that is, you as a male, if you have a good, loving mother, you look for that in your wife. And Deb she is one of the most loyal, loving, kind, generous people that I know, which is probably why initially I fell in love with her. But then her goodness was soft. And I needed someone that was hard. Because I didn't know how to accept love. And that's all Deb is love. Truly. I'm blessed that she loves me now. And I'm not saying that she didn't always love me. It was me. I was the one that didn't give her the option to love me. I didn't want love. I didn't want her kind of love because I didn't know how to experience it. And honestly, Michael in our younger days was a lot like my mom. Told me I was fat. Never was not, and still to this day isn't necessarily complimentary. But I feel like compliments are nice, but compliments are for someone that doesn't have confidence, and I'm not lacking any confidence. Like, I'm confident not in my looks, in who I am as a person. I know that I wake up every day and I choose good. I know that. I'm not saying that things don't hurt my feelings or that I don't get jealous, because I do. I am human. So, the moral of this story is, just because they're your blood type doesn't mean that they're better. And try to be accepting of all forms of love, because you just might be missing out on the best kind that you've ever received. Because you're scared. So, Deb, this one's for you. I love you. And I hope that listening to these videos lets you know that it wasn't necessarily you, but God knew that you could handle me. And I thank Him for that. I love you.